Welcome everyone to another episode of Around the Block Talk. Today we have with us Mr. Vincent Choy. He is an industry veteran, having spent several years in the field of IT and such services. He's currently the Chief Development Advisor at OS, and we are very happy to have you with us on the show today. And I'll hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Prateek. Thanks for having me. Just a quick introduction of myself and what we're doing. I'm actually currently the Chief Development Advisor of OS. OS is a very unique blockchain project that actually aims to connect real-world living together with digital asset industry. And we do that basically by working with special economic zones around the world in order to create for them a platform in which a special economic zone can easily leapfrog the competition and join the digital economy, digital asset industry by introducing four main things. One, the technology to do blockchain and tokenization. Two, a set of rules, regulation, laws, and policies in which they can adopt within a special economic zone to encourage the growth of the digital asset industry. Three, digital infrastructure in which they can connect, which you can overlay into a special economic zone to create smart cities services. And then finally, a treasury and a group of investors, which is basically our community that then participates in growing a special economic zone. Our first project launch for us is called TOTOS. It's a token, which is the world's first residency-enabled token. By that, it means that it's the only token in the world that if you stake it, you're able to get residency benefits in any of our partner countries. Our first partner country is the Philippines. By joining our community, by staking our tokens, you actually get to live and work in the Philippines with no minimum stay requirements. It's a tax-free living. You get privacy protection and you get regulatory cover for your crypto and crypto businesses. So it's a it's an innovative, unique, and one of its kind regulatory product where we partner with and work directly with governments to create a regulatory environment, a regulatory product in which the utility is very, very clear. It's what everybody is looking for. It's really about the promises of decentralization, the promises that blockchain made to us years ago. It's about freedom. How do we achieve that freedom? How do we actually get freedom from the blockchain industry that has been going on for years and years, but we do see the same thing over and over again. You see variations of technology getting better, but not connected to the real world. And we sought out to create a project that can link real world living together with the digital asset industry and give our community real world benefits immediately.
Right. So within that, are you advising governments on what kind of regulations are needed to support this industry?
So what we did, for the Philippines, it was nearly a 3.5-year journey, right? We worked with helping to amend, or at least guiding the amendment of the Constitution specifically Republic Act 11453 that was passed through Congress and signed by the Office of the President to enable the development of a free trade zone called the Freeport Area of Bataan. The Freeport Area of Bataan, you then work with them on implementing rules and regulations. What we are doing now is actually working with a group of legal experts all over the world to actually put together an open source platform for legal development where we can create a set of policy that any government can adopt, modify, and put within their own country in order to attract investments and while at the same time protecting investors and protecting the industry and the financial industry. We don't advocate for countries to adopt this straight away. That's why we work with special economic zones. If you're not familiar with special economic zones are basically like countries within a country. A country set it up. It's a geographically defined area where the laws can be different in order to attract foreign direct investment. A very big advantage of that is from a government national level, they're able to observe what's happening in the special economic zone sandbox it as a regulatory environment, and then see if these laws, this policy makes sense for them to then adopt on a national level. If it's working very well, why not? This is something that they can then put it into national level and then grow their entire country in the direction that they want to bring it to. So we see this as a very, very beneficial to work with, especially if any country. There are 5,400 eco zones around, special economic zones around the world, right? There are a lot of them, but most of them, are focused on the old industry. You think about it, they focus on manufacturing, trying to bring people in to use labor, low cost labor to manufacture and try to bring up the economy. But the world has moved on. We're going into the digital economy. We're going to the space economy. And for a special economic zone to leapfrog their competition, to be future ready, to be future proof, this is what they need to look at. They need to look at creating environments where digital assets, digital economy, space economy can grow, right? And they can sandbox it, they can look at it, they can observe it, and then decide if they want to apply it on a national level as a national strategy.
Sure. Certainly. That sounds like a good idea, because I believe at this point, every government is trying to figure out what kind of regulations are needed for blockchain. And so as of this moment, you're doing this in Philippines. And so
yes, our first partner is the country of the Philippines. We have begin conversations with at least another 10 other countries who are keen to look at what we're doing and keen to adopt what we're doing into their own special economic zones. We hope to be officially giving residencies in at least 3 to 4 countries by the end of this year, and by at least 7 to 8 countries by the end of next year.
Okay, that's great. So, so this is particularly, probably, are you looking at South Asia as your target market?
No. We are talking to people. We're talking to countries in Latin America. We're talking to countries in Africa. We're talking to even some countries in Europe, as well as in Asia. So we do see a possibility of a network of special economic zones around the world that joins us and create a truly digital nomad kind of environment where the rules are standardized, where residency is portable. You can move from one country to another country, especially in the new age digital economy. The digital nomads then find this something that they can easily adopt and easily take part in.
Right. So you have a vision of actually creating this digital nomad international infrastructure wherein companies and people can move through. So, what are the challenges that probably you face in doing this, and what is your roadmap for actually enabling this?
So I think the first challenge is that we are a first mover. I mean, there's no other project like this anywhere in the world, right? That takes part in trying to work with the government to create a solution for the industry, for our community, right? So the education part is a very big hurdle. We need to talk to multiple governments. We need to then teach. I mean, we then need to educate. We need to and show what benefits blockchain, cryptocurrency, digital assets industry can bring to a particular country and how it can help it grow, right? One of the advantages that we have is, like I said, we are not trying to change. We're not trying to be El Salvador. We're not trying to change your country straight away, right? We are saying, look, this is new. This is risky. Nobody knows what the frontier is. Everything is changing by the day, by the minute, because that's how the blockchain industry is. But let's sandbox it. Let's look at a special economic zone. You're going to grow this zone. You're going to bring in foreign direct investments. The digital assets industry is worth at least $1.2 trillion. Why not try to bring that industry into your economy through a special economic zone, see and observe, take the best parts of it before you adopt it nationally.
Right. That's very true. So, in terms of response to your initiative, how are the government responding, and are they really seeing blockchain as a future technology? The governments today.
Actually, a lot of governments today recognize that the digital asset industry cannot be ignored. It's grown too big. But a lot still don't know what to do with it, right? And
Right.
across the globe, you have regulations from outright bans to outright adoption, right? This is all over the place, and both have its both have its problems, right? When you're trying to implement outright ban, people are trying to find ways around it, VPNs and all that kind of thing, to go around your rules and regulations. And then outright adoption, was it chaotic in its implementation, and things like that. So across the world, governments are looking at it from a wide spectrum of regulatory responses. We feel that the way to do it is really to grow with the industry, a light regulatory environment that is both commercial in nature, that is both innovative in nature, but geographically limited, so that you are able to observe what's happening. So you can push all your industries to that area, let people who are willing to take the risk to join that risk, while you build a wall around the common the people you're trying to protect. So these are all the things that I think should be explored. Countries should not block blockchain technology. So, but they should actually look at its potential of it, and then see what they and then put it into a geographically delimited area, sandbox the entire thing, and then observe and make the decisions from there.
Sure. So, geographically, do you see certain regions or countries who better understand the possibilities over there and taking more progressive steps, probably?
I mean, around the world, I'm sure you're aware. Okay, the Philippines is pretty far ahead. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but locally, they have the VSP regime, which governs the local implementation of blockchain and cryptocurrencies. They have, I think, 4 million MetaMask users, 4 million XC Infinity players, nearly 20 million people have wallets, digital crypto wallets in the Philippines. They're taking quite a progressive approach towards it, although a bit domestically focused, but they are pretty advanced where it is. Of course, you see Crypto Valley in Zurich in Switzerland. They've taken a pretty I would say they've taken a pretty innovative approach towards regulations. Around the world, you do see some regulations coming in and about, but overall, there's just one overarching message. It's confusing. If you are in the crypto industry today, if you are in the blockchain industry today, the rules for you might change tomorrow. Literally tomorrow. Tomorrow, I can tell you, hey, you have a 30% tax on crypto transactions. And then next, okay, let's forget the tax. Let's forget the tax. Then 2 weeks later, okay, now we're going to do a 20% tax. It's confusing, right? On a national level, that's chaotic, that disrupts industry, and it is really not the way to do it. We do see that much more has to be done to keep this confined, so that it can grow, so that the industry can grow in a more structured way.
Right, right. So we also recently saw China banning all its Bitcoin mining operations, and they're also the industry over there is kind of looking for a new home, something they can move to. So probably a challenge for blockchain founders internationally today is the regulation and where it would be stable. So in terms of the regulations required in order to grow this industry, in terms of the support required in order to grow in this industry, what do you think are the responsibilities of governments, and what the government can do?
We are not against regulation. I mean, regulation, we're not anarchists. We still need regulations, we still need order in order to survive. Technically, you don't want a case where it's the wild, wild west and everything goes. But what we want is very clear, concise, and commonsensical regulations, right? You don't it is the changes that kill the industry, not really the right. If I know exactly what your game plan is, I know exactly what you want to do and what you cannot do, and you can do, then I decide whether I want to enter your country to do business. right? Now, the problem is the digital asset industry is so global, it is all over the place that then you have all these overlapping rules and regulations which may or may not apply to you, or because you are situated in, I don't know, in British Virgin Islands, or you're situated in Seychelles, then some rules, does it apply to you? Does it not apply to you? And if a user come in, do you qualify them? And then how do you then? So it just becomes a hodgepodge of rules, and it's very confusing. So what our project is trying to do is really come up with a common framework, right? Even if it's within a couple of special economic zones that you can say, hey, if you do your business in these industries and people come to you to do business, it's fine. This is all allowed, randy dandy, and we observe what is working, what is not working, and what is needed to better protect the industry, right? You also don't want a situation where 90% of all the projects are scams, right? Obviously, this is not something that we want to do. That will kill the industry faster than anything else, right? So it's about having commonsensical, real easy to understand and clear regulations. What cannot be done, what are the regulatory burdens on it, what are the protections for everybody, and that's it. I mean, and that's the bottom line. We need that clarity.
Right, certainly. So, also in terms of the exact regulations that should be implemented, what are your views on that? How should this be regulated, and what aspects of it should be left free for exploration? How can we? Yeah.
There's no such thing as, okay, so every country has a right to set their own regulations. It also depends on the financial literacy level of the people in the country, right? If you're talking about Zurich, for example, where I assume that the bulk of the people there has a high level of financial literacy, and can understand, the understand what an investment is, what it's not an investment, versus rural environment, and I'm just telling, hey, high returns, come and join us. That's a very, very different, require very, very different regulations for two areas, right? So you cannot say there's one set of regulations that fit all. Now, but once you're clear on what your regulation wants, then projects can decide if they want to participate, right? The problem is you're not clear. So if you are saying, okay, you cannot target rural people, no way, they're banned, 100%, they cannot give you a single cent. Okay, then it's very clear, right? We will only build projects, or we will only build things for non-rural stuff. If you want to say, oh, you can approach rural, but you need to put aside a capital guarantee of 80% or 60%. That's your capital guarantee. So this is all locked away with the government, and upon anything happen to you, at least 60% of the money is all returned back to the rural people because they're unsophisticated investors. That is also a rule. Then we have to calculate if that 40% margin is enough for us to make a business, right? So the clarity of the rules is what's missing, right? I believe that you need to protect investors, yes, but you also, need to be very clear so that we as project owners, we as project developers can come in with a very clear view what we can and cannot do, and whether it's profitable or not to do that. Right? We want to serve the unbanked. We want to create projects that will serve the underserved. But it must make economic sense for us to do so. But it must also protect them. Right? You're not gonna rug pull all their money away because I have such a fantastic investment scheme that investment scheme, and then people, the project owners, can run away. This is definitely not something you want also.
Right. So I think one core thing that happened is it created a new asset class of these digital assets which did not existed before. And so one problem is people don't actually understand what a digital asset is, and now how to actually regulate it and what to do with it. So I think that is the kind of educational challenge we're seeing. But what is your view on that? How are people responding, and how can we actually make use of this digital asset?
When do you join the industry? When did you join the industry? When did
6 months ago.
Okay. So I've been in the industry for about 5 years. The environment has changed very, even we in the industry are growing and changing on a daily basis. So The government is even worse. They have a lots of legacy systems, and they have to then take a view of all the legacy systems before they can see what's going ahead and ahead and ahead. Right? NFTs didn't exist until like 2 years ago. Correct. And then now they are a multi-billion, multi-trillion dollar kind of a market. You know, um, at a certain point in 2 years ago, everyone was talking about STO, security tokens. That didn't pick up. It didn't go anywhere. But then before that, your ICOs, your utility tokens. But then a lot of those don't actually have utility, and nobody actually knew how to value or actually quantify utility. The industry is changing at a rapid breakneck pace, right? So I think what is commonsensical is really to allow innovation to happen on a commercial basis, to see if there's commercial viability of innovation, but audit that process. Don't try to regulate it, because you don't know what is going to be the next step, right? But you try to audit in order to protect the people you want to protect. So it is more of a regulatory light environment where you use audit purposes to then, or audit functions to then try to look at what's happening in the industry and consider what every action will have on the people you want to protect, and to see if these guys are scams or these guys have actual innovation or actual financial innovation that will help everybody. I think that is important.
Right. So also in this particular space, most of the products are completely digital. And so I've seen companies move their place very easily. Like they one day they're established in Singapore, the next day they just move their countries and their headquarters somewhere else, because they don't have a lot of physical infrastructure to actually move to that country. So do you see that happening, that some of these countries with better regulations are going to attract most of the industry?
Oh, yes, definitely. Companies like the digital companies are going to move where the regulations favor them the most. I mean, that we already seen happening, right? When Dubai made it a lot easier to do digital asset businesses, a lot of businesses moved there and are still moving there, right? Bahrain made it easier to get a exchange license, and a lot of people are moving there. So definitely, I mean, the industry will flow where the regulation is suits them best.
Right. Definitely. So what are your views and thoughts on the entire industry itself? You know, this is happening on a very global scale. So even emerging markets or even underserved markets, they have an opportunity to make something in this industry and grow. So what are your views on how this industry is going to shape up?
Okay. The industry really need to focus on who is actually using the technology, right? We tend to forget that blockchain technology is a tool. Blockchain technology is a tool that has a lot of benefits, right? But they are not particularly right for all situations, right? There are certain situations where, the first question a project when launch is like, does this really need blockchain? And what does blockchain actually help to do? Right. Let me give a very concrete example, right? Union Bank of the Philippines, which my co-founder is of Oz used to be with. Remittance was a very, very big business in the Philippines, right? And by utilizing blockchain technology, they managed to simplify the remittance process from a 27 step process to a 4-step process. They cut costs by 93%. And they also then became number 1 in remittance in the whole country. It's because they understood that blockchain technology is a tool that has the potential benefits, and they utilize the benefits accordingly in order for them to grow their business. Now, all these projects and what they're trying to do with blockchain, the core utility, what are we actually doing with the blockchain technology by implementing blockchain technology within this function or this business? Does it actually bring value to the users? and how much value. Look at the valuations of a lot of these crypto projects. Are they worth that much? Do they actually bring that much value to that many users? This is a very core question that I think a lot of investors, a lot of punters, a lot of retail do not think about. And that, unfortunately, gave rise to many of the scams, many of the rug pulls that you see in the market today. Because there's no due consideration for the actual use of the technology in the context that it's supposed to be used on.
Right, certainly. I think a lot of these companies, they're starting from technology, and then they build something. Then they see if this can actually solve something, rather than the other way around, starting from the problem first. So that is definitely something to consider. So also, in your opinion, what are some of the major use cases, where we can apply this technology, and where this could be a game changer for the industry?
We have seen the technology applied we've seen the technology applied and is very useful in process. In anything that has a process that needs to be cut down and where things need to be transparent within the process, right? Where trust needs to be established within the process. We've seen blockchain technology excel specifically in these cases. So we do see like a lot of use cases in logistics, for example, right? In provenance, in understanding where one goods come from, what was the supply chain, and ultimately how it reached the consumer, and how this entire process can be cut down. In financial services, especially, right, where the use of intermediaries normally create a lot of barriers. These all can be broken down when you apply blockchain technology correctly. So we do, if you think of long, complex processes that have a lot of intermediaries in between, blockchain technology is ideal for simplifying these and making business a lot, and cutting down costs of doing business.
Right, certainly. So also, what opportunity do you see particularly for emerging markets like South Asia, India, and such countries? The vision that it has of building something, a decentralized version of the world and the technology, what extent do you think is possible, and how far can we go with that?
Okay. To do that, I think we need to understand what are the purposes of decentralization, right? And when you say you want to build a decentralized economy, what was that supposed to bring, right? A decentralized economy is ultimately, why? Why are we building a decentralized economy or a decentralized system? To understand, is it because you have something to hide? Or is it because you want to do something good? This is where if you are trying to do something good, right, and you're not having something to hide, that means you want to have a process where, hey, I have my freedoms, as long as everything I'm doing is legit, everything I'm doing is good, everything I'm doing is above board. I want to be transparent. I want everybody to know what I'm doing, and I want to be anonymous because I'm doing proper things, right? Now, within that framework, can true decentralization exist? I would argue that is very, very difficult, because governments will never want to give up that kind of control. But within a centralized environment where enough checks and balances are in place, you can actually run decentralization for process and efficiency gain, right? Not for total anarchy. If I have something to hide, that's a very different story altogether. But then my backman question to you is, do you even want these players in your industry? People with something to hide, people who are doing illicit things, people who are doing illegal things, people who are out there to scam you. Do you even want these players? And if so, if you don't want all these players, then how do you protect the industry and still make things decentralized? This is something that we really think about, because everyone is saying, I want decentralized, but why? You have to keep that focus in mind, because if decentralization can bring benefits, advantages, cost savings, process savings, can bring all these things, yes, we should do decentralization within that context. But if decentralization means hiding illegal stuff, being able to anonymously go break the law, then no, I don't even want these elements in my ecosystem, right? No matter what you're screaming about, no matter how much money you have, I don't want these elements into my ecosystem because these are destructive elements.
Right, right, certainly. So either way, the technology are going to get built and there's going to be adoption. So if we regulate it properly, we would encourage good work or the right work to be actually done rather than the malicious intent that other people might have. So
Correct.
so in
You,
order to actually
you
do
got the
that,
right words. Regulate it rightly and regulate it lightly. Yeah, these are the two key takeaways, I believe, if you're talking about regulation.
I'm sorry, what were those?
Regulate rightly and regulate lightly.
Right, right, certainly. So you've been definitely interacting with all these governments. So as a in the world today, are these government really ready to attract these companies, and are they really pushing on these? Because particularly for India, the government has a very strong point of view that they would really like to support blockchain technology, probably not crypto, but they have released several statements and documents stating that. So what is the general take that the world has today on these technologies?
Um, I'm not familiar with India. I know they have regulated very heavily against crypto. All right, they don't like the concept of cryptocurrencies and forming alternate currencies that take away from the monetary policy of India. Blockchain technology, as I said, if applied correctly, there are many advantages, especially in long processes. And I don't know, and India, I think your government processes are the longest in terms of complexity. This is something that blockchain technology can really help with in terms of governmental implementation. But like I said this at the very beginning. Don't take your country as an experimental pit. Use a special economic zone, a small one, a big one, doesn't matter. Designate that as a test bed, designate that as a sandbox, bring in people like us, projects like us to come in to try and bring in the right, show the right policies, do the templates, and then observe what happens and decide if this is what you want for the rest of your country. Don't take your whole country monetary, economic, and financial system and try to throw blockchain into it straight away. Experiment. That's what special economic zones are for. Most people forget that. You want to create special zones where you can experiment with regulations, with technology, to try to attract foreign direct investments to grow your whole country. Think of China. China was a communist country until Shenzhen, a special economic zone that Deng Xiaoping said, okay, let's try capitalism. And they saw the growth. They saw, oh, wow, everybody can grow very well if we do this. And then they expanded across the whole of the country. China has the most number of special economic zones in the whole world today, right? And they use special economic zones particularly to try out new concepts and to try out new regulatory regimes to then grow. I think this is something that we can think about,
Right, certainly. That also I think one hiccup or one thing that the government has against this technology is the decentralized aspect of it. Probably they are scared that it would take away some power or something away from them what they control today. So is that a problem that you see today with the governments?
okay, governments are always afraid of losing control. I mean, technically, the government apparatus is meant to do that. But I think the one word I would like to say is that we're not about asking them to give up control completely, right? But if you can create the regulatory environment to support the decentralized environment, so you still know what's going on, as long as you know that everything is above board, you don't have to step in. I think this is the important framework that we need to strike a balance on.
Right, certainly. So I will also let the audience ask a question to the speaker if someone would like to speak.
Hi, Mr. Choi. It was
Hi.
really nice hearing you. I think it gave me clarity on all of other things as well. The way you told about the government guidelines and how it should be clear in the way ahead in the next 5 or 10 years. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Madhu.
Sure. So thank you, Vincent, for coming to this particular talk show, and it
No
was
problem.
definitely an insightful and very interesting talk. And you're doing something very unique, I think, a service much needed for a sandbox environment for the development of these technologies.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.